In today's episode, we've got recording artist Stan Bush. So don't you change that dial or drop that phone. We're about to level it up and shatter the mold. Question. In a world where groupthink is the norm, others want what you've earned, and thinking for yourself will get a target painted on your back, how do you flip the script and level up your business, your money, relationships, your health, your status, and your life? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Andrew S. Kaplan, and it's time to shatter the mold. Welcome to another episode of Shatter the Mold, the first one of 2021. Long overdue. Apologies for taking so long. I think we all agree it's been a crazy year so far already, hence the delay, but we are ready to get back into things and really dive back into our schedule. As always, I just want to quickly begin with an update for my book, the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. It had an unbelievable 2020, and it's already off to a great start for 2021 as well. I want to thank everyone for the 5-star rave reviews. Amazon actually changed their functionality so I can no longer comment on them and reply to you and thank you personally on the site, but I do really appreciate them. And also, I appreciate Yahoo late last year putting the book in one of its top 20 lists. It was featured, I think, in 2 articles in Yahoo, actually. And again, everything's just going so great with the book. I could not be happier. I really appreciate all the positive emails, all the positive feedback. The best ones are for people that have read so many Law of Attraction books and could never really wrap their head around it or find a final solution, where they're saying that this book finally did the trick. So again, thank you so much to everyone for all your support, for all the positive feedback. And trust me when I say there's a lot more on the way for 2021 in that regard. Quick reminder, if you want to check out the book on Amazon, you can just go to lastlawofattractionbook.com and it'll auto forward to you. Again, that's for audiobook or Kindle or paperback, whatever format you want. Or if you just want to check out my YouTube channel, which is getting more and more subscribers through its content and support of the book, you can just go to youtube.com/AndrewCap. But with that said, let's waste no more time here. Let's go straight to our interview. This one's going to be a good one, so I'm going to switch up mics and dive on in with Stan. All right, so today's guest I'm really excited for. Stan Bush is an Emmy-winning, world-renowned rock singer with decades of experience and success under his belt. Best known for his song The Touch from the very first Transformers movie back in 1986, and more recently, the Bumblebee film, Stan has navigated the music industry on a level that few can match and most will never truly appreciate. He recently put out his 14th studio album, Dare to Dream, bolstered by his Netflix featured single, Born to Fight. And this is just a short version of his bio introduction, but I want to dive straight in with him and pick his brain about what it means to consistently create in one of the most volatile and challenging industries out there. So without further ado, Shatter the Mold warmly welcomes Mr. Stan Bush. Stan, thank you so much for being here, my friend, and welcome to Shatter the Mold.
Hi, my pleasure. How's it going?
It's going great, Stan. I'm really excited for this conversation. It's interesting. I have 2 channels. I've got Shatter the Mold, which is about obviously shattering the mold. I've also got a Law of Attraction thing where I haven't uploaded it. I spoke to a musician who's done like 50 million in sales, and I got a glimpse of what it really takes that a lot of people don't appreciate to be in this industry. And we were talking before I hit the record button. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with you from Transformers, and that's kind of like been I'm not sure how things go across the world in other countries, but I've never seen you get any love from MTV back when they were doing videos. I've never seen you get any love from Clear Channel or Z100 or any of that stuff. And here you are, you're on your 14th studio album and you're making things happen. So I guess first, in your face question is like, what is your secret to thriving so long and making it work and continuing to put out content in the music industry?
Maybe stubborn. Tenacity, I guess, is a good word. No, it's just you just keep doing it, right? Like when rock, 80s rock kind of imploded in the early 90s, the grunge thing came in, and I still had like a following in Europe and Japan, so I did a lot of stuff over there, tours and whatnot. So I kind of kept things alive and kept making the kind of music that I do. I haven't really changed drastically over the years. It's just it's just something that's close to what I feel, as an artist. And anyway, it's been a cool ride.
Awesome.
I've had a lot of stuff, films and TV and whatnot, things that have happened, and I'm grateful for everything that's come about.
Yeah, and I was going
So
to say, based on the touch, and based on Dare, which was also featured in Transformers, which, I know a lot of people, a lot of your fans will watch this interview, and a lot of new people will watch this interview. Your lyrical content, it seems reasonably consistent in terms of the attitude and the vibe. I'm wondering, like, how would you describe your lyrical style, and what informs it even to this day, and has it evolved in your opinion in any way through the years?
Yeah. Well, the sort of motivational aspect has sort of started with the touch. It's people have said that song, touched them in some way. No pun intended. Like, well, just as far as maybe making them feel like they could do stuff they maybe couldn't ordinarily do, and that kind of thing. And it just sort of it seemed to be a niche. I like the positive aspect, and it's just a message of like, hey, believe in yourself, and go for stuff, right? And anyway, it just kind of evolved from there. But I mean, I still do like the love songs and things like that as well. But it seems like every album there's two or three of those sort of go for it, believe in yourself, and so anyway, it's a cool thing to be known for, and I really like. I don't know. It's a theory that I have, sort of a feeling that deep down, I don't think we realize how much power we have as
Mhm.
people. We really can sort of move mountains metaphorically. It's so
Yeah, I love
anyway.
that. I love that. I've also noticed just there's an obvious willingness to stay connected with your fan base in
Hmm.
ways that, I mean, maybe I'm just a bit jaded, but I don't think every artist out there, whether they're being pushed out into the spotlight or not, I don't see a lot of people making that concerted effort or having that care with which they treat their fan base. And the feeling I get from you is, you're very happy and like you said, grateful to be connected to them. I'm wondering, how much of your thought process goes in, like when you're creating records about, your fan base? Are you looking for new opportunities to connect with them through the music? Are you looking for new opportunities to connect with them even outside of the music? Like, what has been your perspective in interacting with them all these years? Because obviously you're doing something right that a lot of people can learn from.
Well, it's I don't think consciously set out to try to write for a particular genre, or 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 right to become successful or whatever. I think it's just I just do what I do, and to me, like, music is very sort of like, I'll be messing with an idea, a new idea, and I won't even pursue it unless I think it's great. You know what I mean? So a melody has to really stick with me, and that's kind of elusive. The thing about writing, I think, it's everybody knows a great song when they hear it, but you can't always get there. It's sort of, I guess if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? No, but
Right.
I don't know. It really is work, to try to come up with something that's good, that you think also, that's not sort of been done. That's another hard aspect. You got to try to think of new stuff. And like, I don't know if you noticed, but I changed keys a lot. So I mean, to me, it's like, wow, where did that come from? That you want to
Right.
sort of you want to surprise people, I think, and
Yeah.
so, but
No.
but as far as the self promotion aspect, that is hard, and the industry is changing. It has been since back in the old days. Really, the record companies sort of went away. In terms of the general model is sort of, you're on your own, buddy, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
And yeah, with Napster and the whole downloading, and then it evolved from there. iTunes, and then now it's a lot of streaming stuff, and YouTube and things.
Yeah,
So
like in this new world, and how we're connecting with our audience in different ways, have you noticed something in the past 5 or 10 years that either you tried and it really worked and it really connected, or even on the other flip side of things, you tried something that you thought might work and it just went nowhere, and it's just like, hey, well, I guess that was worth a shot. Was there anything that like stands out in your mind, either on a plus or minus in that way?
probably more of the latter.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It is that way. You know, it is a sort of hit or miss thing. But I think, if you know in your gut that something's really good, and you just go with that, it's usually your gut. You can trust your gut, and I think that's been, if anything, sort of a key to whatever success I have had. The like I say, some of the early films and things that later became sort of, you know a cult following and things like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. And like I'm known for this sort of besides Transformers, I mean, for this sort of action hero kind of stuff. And I love that. I mean, I love the songs of the 80s. You remember you'd go to the movies and you see a movie and they have these songs, and the songs were great, and they would be part of the story. And then you'd walk out of the theater, you know, you'd sing the song and you'd know the lyrics, and you know the melody you'd remember. And that I missed
Mm.
that. You know, that was a cool thing about the 80s, is that memorable hook, the hook thing, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny because like obviously one of the big things like today is Cobra Kai, which is living off like that magic of the Karate Kid. And I think Karate Kid is like a wonderful example of something where, you know, that music and the montages that, you know, they didn't make the movie, they complemented the movie. They gave it a new dynamic, a new layer, a new flavor. So
That's
when
right.
yeah,
That's
when you
right.
tell me that, I hear exactly what you're saying about using the music to
Hmm.
enhance whatever story these producers and these writers and these actors had in mind before they ever laid down these tracks afterwards. It's almost becoming this new creation through the
Hmm.
addition of the music.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the best things about the 80s. You know, movies like Top Gun and you know, well, Rocky was actually 70s, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And those kind of movies, Back to the Future. It was really cool time for music. And so that was the other thing too, is sort of the songwriting aspect was like that sort of, to me, I never left the 80s. In fact, you probably know this, but there's a song on the album called The 80s. The new
Mhm.
album Dare to Dream has a song called The 80s. We did a music video for it last year in the summertime. And well, 2019. That was it. Yeah. 2019 in the summer. And it was called The 80s. And it's a song about 80s music and sort of carefree and looking back at your youth. And it's a very cool nostalgic kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. You know, speaking of that, like, you know, just looking back on the 80s, to pay you a compliment, and I really do mean this in the most complimentary way, you know, I'm listening to the new album and I'm listening to the
uh-huh.
quality of your voice. And I don't know how you've done it, but it seems to me, again, I'm no expert, it seems to me like the quality of your voice has remained. And I mean that in comparison where I have certain bands that I follow or certain musicians, and it seems like the voice changes and not so much for the better, where, you know, maybe
Yeah.
you know, things happen, they blow out their vocal cords or who knows what. But to your
Yeah.
credit, at least in my opinion, it seems like the quality of your voice has really stayed the same, and we're talking over decades. I'm wondering, is do you have some kind of like health regimen or some way of like, you know, handling or taking care of your voice that's ensuring that, or are you just like blessed with good genetics? Like, what's the secret on that one?
Well, my voice has always been, you know, pretty strong. I'm playing all those years in nightclubs and coming up, you know. And I think that's another thing, though. A lot of these bands that you're talking about, ones that were really big bands in the 80s and 70s, these guys toured, you know, they would tour 6 months, 12 months, maybe in a whole, you know, all the time. And it's really hard to sing like that all the time, especially, you know, if you don't take care of yourself. That's another thing, you know, whatever. But I think, you know, one of the things that I've been blessed is being able to make a living and staying in town, you know, and not having to go out all the time. I mean, I do selected like tour dates in Europe and whatever, you know, and or in the States. And then, but I don't go out for months and months, you know. That's hard to it's hard to keep your voice up, especially like you start losing the high notes first. And you see that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And you know,
But
credit to these musicians. I mean, sometimes you see bands play and they get to a point where they're like engaging the crowd and having the crowd hit the notes, and
yeah,
it's
let them
clear it's
sing it,
like, well,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's good showmanship, but also it's a strategy because they can't hit the note the same way because I mean, I'm hearing it from
yeah,
you
yeah.
confirmation. It's like it takes its
You're
toll on you.
right. You're right.
Got it.
It really does. It every time you know, scream out one of those notes, it's like you know, it's really is hard to sing like that consistently. You know, you can do it in the studio, but I've been blessed in that regard. So
Mm,
I
cool,
still
cool.
have my notes and my high notes and all that. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're as high. I listened the other day to that Fight to Survive, and that was a high E. That was like
Hmm.
Fight to Survive. You know, that was like, man, that's
Yeah.
that's up there.
No, I got you. I got you. And it's kind of, we're always going to be our own worst critics, where we'll know a
Yeah,
difference just as artists. I mean, I'm not a singer, but like in the stuff that you do, you will spot the difference about 10 years before someone else might notice it, because you could already,
yeah,
you know yourself so well in
yeah,
that way.
yeah. It's
You know,
very
also, like,
subtle.
since we're
Yeah.
talking about like the new stuff, I wanted to ask you about Born to Fight, because, you know, in as I introduced you, I said like Netflix featured single. I wanted to ask you, like, you know, what really like happened, that like what's the situation with that being featured, and kind of what was the story that got it on Netflix to begin with? How did you kind of get that platform for it?
Well, the head of Netflix Anime actually reached out to me, and it was around the end of the summer, September maybe, and wanted to commission me to write a song to promote their two most popular anime shows, Baki and Kingen Ashura. Anyway, I was like, oh, great. So I immediately called up my writing partner that I wrote The Touch with, Lenny Macaluso, and we cranked out the song Born to Fight. And the timing was perfect because we had one more song to do to complete the new album, the Dare to Dream album. And so Born to Fight came about very quickly, and they loved it after we recorded the song and submitted it. And so it turned into a music video and has footage from the cartoon shows, the anime shows, and a music video for the new album. So the timing, everything was perfect. It was the final song for the new album.
Mm-hmm. All right. I love
Yeah.
the way, you know, you kind of like, you know, you almost keep it old school, and you put it in, it's couple it with other footage, and kind of maintain the vibe of that music, which I love.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a fun thing. Like the Transformers movie, the original, the music video for the Touch had the cartoon, the footage from the animated Transformers, way back. So
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm hoping to be a bit of a different interview, but just because we bring it up here, even though you've probably been asked a million times, I'm curious, when that movie hit, like, were you in any way mentally prepared for the kind of microscope that was going to be on that song, or even both those songs, like that and Dare, and how much attention it really got? Did you even know it was coming down the pike, or did it kind of hit you out of nowhere?
it was kind of out of nowhere. Lenny and I wrote the Touch and then submitted it. Actually, and originally had written it with the Stallone movie Cobra in mind, and it anyway. The record company came back and said, "Oh, we got it in this animated movie about robots," and I'm like, what? Anyway, little did we know it was going to become like a phenomenon. So, but yeah, back then, I mean, Ninja Turtles were the thing, right? So anyway, it turned out, like I say, decades later, that Transformers emerged as this big phenomenon. It is a huge deal, and it's pretty cool because I go to the conventions a lot of times and perform, and a lot of Transformers fans know those songs, "The Touch" and "Dare," and there have been others since then. There was one called "Till All Are One" that's in the Transformers War for Cybertron game, and some other games and stuff. I use those songs, and it's just Hasbro's been great. It's been really cool dealing with those people, and the fans, of course, are wonderful.
Hmm.
They come to these shows, these conventions, and they're like, oh man, your song changed my life, the soundtrack to my childhood, stuff like that. And I'm like so humbled because I'm like, all I did was sing a song 30 years ago. You know what I mean? It's kind of,
Yeah.
but for some reason you made somebody's, maybe made somebody's day a little better or something. It's an awesome feeling. It's
Yeah. Well, what's most
yeah,
interesting about this is, like, you know, many people, just, you know, entrepreneurs, they're doing certain businesses, and, you know,
yeah,
they're going after, you know, boomer generation or something else. Like, just the way this worked out, that song happened to be put in front of kids, and now all these years later, they're the ones that make those decisions about spending money. So what are they going to spend money on? Like, of course, the things that really touched them and really reached them. So it's almost like this
hmm,
really happy accident, the fact that you were just doing your thing, creating, trying to put it in another movie that wasn't even for kids, if I'm not mistaken. And here, kind of like things flipped around, and they went in this direction. And again, it sounds to me like,
yeah,
and even hearing you speak right now, it's almost like you are doing it, a lot of it unconsciously, just in who you are as a person authentically. You've found a way just to stay connected with the fans, and honor their passion for what you've done. And whereas, like, some people, and I mean this in a bad way, some people be like, oh, I'm over that, it's done. You're like, no, listen, this touched people, I dig it, I actually
yeah,
wrote it, obviously I'm into it, I'm not gonna like turn my back on this at all. Like, let's see who this is connecting with. Let's see where we can push this, and let's make sure that everything else do is
Yeah,
like in honor of that, because I'm totally on board. That's the feeling that I get from you, even in this
yeah,
conversation, but just in seeing how you consistently put out your music. And I think it's a wonderful lesson for people across the board, because some people hear this as musicians and are like, well, yeah, I can get down with that and I can understand that. But again, even entrepreneurs, even people that aren't doing something that's, coded as creative, I think there's something to be said for really noticing when you create something or you do something or you serve in a certain way that really teaches people, really reaches people. And again, it sounds to me like you're really leading by example and honoring that as you move forward in your career and as you continue to create. So I want to give you kudos for that.
oh well, thank you, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm humbled by the whole thing, honestly. It's these are wonderful people, it's just really cool to be appreciated for something that that you do. I mean, I guess that's true in every aspect of life, but um I don't know, it is a cool song though. I mean, I still like the song. It's
Mhm.
like everybody, like you said, they, oh man, I got to play that song again, but to me it's the opposite. I'm like thrilled to be able to play, and they're like singing along and they know the words, and it's like it's the best, it
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is the
for sure.
best.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What right now? I mean, obviously, we're coming off the heels of 2020, and
Hmm.
we'll see how things go with perform live performances. Are there any
Right.
songs in particular off the new album that you're just really pumped to perform live, that just like for some reason they really resonate with you to sing and perform?
Um, it's funny because well, okay, back up for a second. This past year, of course, has been a real nightmare for most everybody, 2020. But the one silver lining for me, at least, is that we were able, myself and my producer Holger Fath, he's a great guitar player and my best friend. And anyway, we did this album during this whole pandemic, and the silver lining is that we were able to focus entirely on the songs and the production. So I'm very happy with the new record, and I pretty much love every song on, which is very unusual for. I mean, usually after I finish an album, I don't want to think about it or hear it again for years later. Sometimes years, but it's. I really do love every song. I mean, Born to Fight came out great. The title song, Dare to Dream, is a real powerful song. There's a couple of others, that one called Heat of Attack is people have compared it to like Survivor or something, because it's got that sort of power, a memorable hook thing, and but songs about, there's one called True Believer, and there are songs about sort of fighting, but also about believing in yourself, going for it, and it's not cheesy. I think it's, to me, it's just uplifting. That's the
Hmm.
best word I can use. Is it's uh but I'm singing it to myself as much as anything. I think it's like
Nice,
I've had a
nice.
great life. I mean, my childhood was great. My parents were real supportive. I think that's a real plus. Some people maybe are not so lucky and things in that regard, but I have had a really blessed life, and I don't know. Just to me, it's like there's a lot of negativity in the world, and if you can say something positive, I think it's better, And
Yeah,
there's even touches of like some spiritual things too, like in the lyrics about like Dare to Dream. I mean, live every moment, look up to the sky. Of course, that means, you're looking to the big guy. And yeah, I don't know, just stuff like that, where you stop and think about what makes all of this happen. Why is the world here? And like the last song too, that Home is a very personal song too. It's sort of going back to childhood, and I grew up in the South, of course, in Florida. And but it's like everybody, I think, yearns to go back to the beginning, and it's not so much a place but a feeling. You when
mm,
you were a kid, you have this innocence. And anyway, I
yeah,
really like that song as well. So, but yeah,
cool.
it'll be a blast performing this stuff when we do finally open up, and maybe by summer, this whole vaccine thing will be you know
Yeah.
fixing everything and making it where we can live again and not go through this stuff. It's been a crazy time.
Yeah, and I guess time
So
will tell on that one. Now, I get the feeling, obviously, a lot of the song structure and arrangement was done in 2020. were the lyrics also done in 2020, or did you kind of come in with those before you really dove into things?
No, it was mostly all in 2020.
Cool.
Like I say, the 80s was already, we did that before, and that was like the first song. And then there were one or two others later in 2019. And then, but the bulk of the album was 2020. And it's sort of like, I go just song by song, like the lyrics. Often I'll start with like a melody and chord thing, and I'll be singing a melody that I'll think, oh wow, this is cool, and then have sort of another part that I go to that maybe hopefully is a surprise or something unusual, but melodically memorable, you know. And then a lot of times you'll get a hook sort of idea, a title will emerge, and then you sort of work backwards from there and fill in the blanks. It's like a puzzle, you know. It's I
Mhm.
love songwriting. It's very it's a lot of concentration, and it's not, you know, something you can just, some of these people just whip out stuff and I'm like, that's not me, you know. I got to work hard,
Yeah,
especially
you
on the
gotta chip
lyrics,
away.
because it's yeah, you know, it's just you want to, I guess in the past, looking back years ago at my early stuff, decades ago, I think that was where I probably didn't do as well as I could. I gave up too soon, you know, on lyrics. And but they're important, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Whether melodically speaking or lyrically speaking, is there any song that stands out as the one that's kind of like a departure or most of a departure from what you did with the album, or was it really all just very consistent that you wanted to follow the same thread throughout the whole thing?
Well, they were different. Like I say, this one called "A Dream of Love" is it's got a sort of a slow eighth note, mid tempo eighth note kind of feel, like a little bit like "Missing You" or something, John Waite. But it has or White Snake, you know, "It's This Love." But the lyrics are about, you know, this guy, for whatever reason, he's lost this love, this woman that he loved, and so he can only sort of see her when he's dreaming, you know. So anyway, it's one of those sort of different, but it's definitely a love or love lost kind of song. And of course
Mm,
there's a big love ballad, you know. And anyway, but you know, you want
yeah.
to, I think you want to mix it up. You know, you can't have all sort of fight songs and or all you know. But it's I like you know, I love love songs. I mean, that's like, to me, that was always the thing. You know, most every song was somehow about relationships and things. So you
Got it.
want to find stuff that you can be passionate about.
Yeah. Now,
So
through your creative process, are these songs being influenced by personal experience, by stories from friends, or a combination, or really just coming out from the ether?
it's mostly pretty much all fictional.
Hmm.
Probably Home is closer to hitting the mark, you know. And there was another one that I did on my 2007 In This Life album that was very, you know, personal and real. The song, you know, Southern Rain. It's about, again, about growing up and being a kid and going back to that time in your mind, and you know, like escaping from sort of modern day, you know, stresses and strains that we, you know, all of us as adults, we, it's crazy, you know, when you're making a living, you're living in the world, and you're trying to do the right thing, and maybe raise a family, whatever you're doing. But just the stress levels incredible, you know. It's
Right.
amazing we're not all nuts, you know. Well, a lot of us are.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like that's, I guess, where music comes in, and other creative outlets
Yeah,
come in as a way of, experiencing relief or experiencing just escape from whatever that
yeah,
stress might be. So I guess that's
correct.
part of where the art comes in. On that note, actually, comes to mind. I'm sure you've had like a lot of experiences of fans of the music saying, "Hey, listen, this has made a real impact," or it's really inspired me. Is there anything in your mind that stands out the most, or one of the most, that really just like knocked you over that you weren't expecting in terms of a fan interaction?
Oh, well, just, you know, I've gotten fan letters from people where, you know, like I say, I guess one kid was contemplating suicide at one point or something, and he was saying how those songs had turned him around, turned his life around, and that was incredible to hear, you know. And
Yeah.
that maybe your lyrics help somebody through a tough time. And I got one fan letter that was really cute from a little boy. He said, "You're my biggest fan." No, you had to turn it around. So,
Nice. I like
but
it.
yeah, so there's
Awesome.
you get everything, a lot of
Yeah,
funny stuff
cool.
like that. It was very cute.
I love it. I mean, well, again, it sounds like you're really you're following your passion. It sounds like um you're kind of just like you're feeling your way through it. I get the feeling that you're taking this as it comes, you're creating as you can, you're letting the feedback from people inspire you while simultaneously staying true to yourself. And again, like this is kind of like an entrepreneurial podcast. I think these are all wonderful lessons that can translate for anyone out there that wants to have a career in music, but also translates in any kind of thing that you want to do. Because again,
Yeah,
this is just me waxing poetic and coming from my own perspective, but I think it's really important to have a strong sense of self as you do things, so
yeah,
that when you get that feedback, you're letting it inspire you and you're letting it push you, but you're not letting it be the only thing you depend on, because it's still got to come from within. And again, that's the feeling I'm
yeah.
getting from you in terms of your creative process.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, I think, one of probably the most gratifying thing or whatever that you really feel like you're doing something with your life is pursuing, any form of like excellence. If you think you're like, oh, okay, I'm doing something really good here, and that's a great feeling.
Mm,
Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be, music or whatever it is. And also one of the things the old buddy of mine played drums for Tom Petty for years and years, told me one time, said, always work with the best people you can. And that sort of stuck with me as well, and we you want to do everything as good as you can and be, it, I've had a pretty good uh, career as a singer too, just straight, hired singer. Back in the 80s, I did a lot of big commercials. I was the voice for Toyota trucks and Coors beer and all this stuff. And yeah,
yep.
that's how I bought my house, way back. It's like, you it's good money in that stuff, and I'd sing on
Yeah.
other albums like Alice Cooper and Jefferson Starship and tons of stuff. It's like, but I think, like I say, songwriting is one of the coolest things, because you start with nothing and you come up with something that's like you create something. It's a really cool feeling. I mean, it's like I say, 90% of them are not that great, but there's occasionally something that's like, oh, okay, this is really good.
Yeah.
So
Do you start from the music end with a harmony or with a chord progression or a piano line? Like, what is usually the foundation, if there is a usual one to begin with, that you build all your songs off of?
yeah, it's usually guitar. I have an acoustic guitar, that a really good one that sounds great, and just sitting by myself and strumming, and you come up with a melody like you said, and chords, and it's like it really takes a lot of sort of noodling around before something really hits you. It's like, wow, this could be a song. Or sometimes, like I say, it'll be a whole song
Hmm.
title will kind of like come out of nowhere, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, that'll be good. And then you know
I
but
love it.
again, it's a lot of it's production too. Like some songs are, maybe would most songs, if you could sit down with an acoustic guitar, one guy with a guitar, and sing it, and it sounds like, oh, okay, that's the mark of a good song. If it's a good song in, unproduced or whatever, then it's sort of in the raw state. And then that's why I think that unplug phenomenon during the 90s that happened, the 80s and 90s, was so popular, because it really did distill down. You could see, okay, this is a song laid bare, right? It's like, it was a
Yeah,
cool
for
thing.
sure. For sure. I know Nirvana was and Pearl Jam were probably the most well-known unplugs. I was a huge fan of Live, and when Live did unplugged, just like what you were saying, I remember hearing there's just the structure and the soul of the song in a way
Mm-hmm.
that you just don't hear on a produced album. So I totally get you on that.
Yeah,
I love that, man. That's
yeah,
awesome. So obviously, we're recording this in the first week of 2021, and we are in a bit of a holding pattern in the sense of touring and things of that nature.
yeah,
That
yeah.
part notwithstanding, like, where are you going from here? Like, what are your current 2021 plans in terms of things that you're definitely doing X, Y, and Z right now in the next couple months?
Um, I'm doing something this weekend that's going to come out soon, and I can't really elaborate because it's a secret, but it's going to be really cool and
Mhm.
very very big. And it's I think it's going to really help the trajectory of the album. The album's already doing great, by the way. The reviews have been just tremendous in Europe and everything else. So I just found out a couple days ago that it was voted number 10 of the new albums of 2020, the albums of 2020.
Nice.
So that's
Congrats.
pretty cool, hearing stuff like that, and people seem to really like it. And so
For
anyway,
sure.
it's
For sure.
but yeah, I'm working on that, and looking towards doing a lot of promotion PR stuff. But I really would like to start doing shows, later. Certainly by summer, I'm thinking we'll be out there doing things.
I love it. I love it.
So
And if people, in terms of this thing that we can't reveal yet, I mean, the time will come for it. If people want to find out about that when the time comes, or really just learn more about you or hear your songs, what's the best place for them to find you online?
stanbush.com. So
Easy.
yeah.
Couldn't be easier, right?
Yeah,
Well, Stan, I got to tell you again, this has been a very inspiring conversation. I highly recommend people go to stanbush.com. I also highly recommend people check out the album. Um, I appreciate, I notice when someone's coming at something from a very core artistic integrity point of view on things, and I can really tell about that. That's how you're approaching the music, and I just wanted to give you respect for that. And I've really appreciated this opportunity to have what, from my podcast, is a very unique conversation, because usually I'll talk to marketing people and I'll talk to business people and things of that nature. And your work is its own marketing, just through its quality, but also this gets to really more to a core of a creative standpoint. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to have this conversation and go down this road with you. So thank you so much for that, my friend.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It was great. Appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the support.
Thank you again, Stan. That was really awesome, and a really nice change of pace for this show. If I'm not mistaken, you really are the first recording artist I've had featured on this podcast, and maybe that'll be a sign of things to come. But guys, those that have heard this for the first time, by all means, if you haven't done so already, pull out that phone, hit that subscribe button. While you're at it, leave a quick, honest, written review. And stay tuned. We have got a lot more on the way. I'm going to try to ramp up the publishing schedule, get more guests on. We've got a few recorded from 2020 still that I want to knock out there, and they'll be on the way shortly, so I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for listening to Shatter the Mold at www.shatterthemoldpodcast.com. My name is Andrew S. Kaplan. My name is Andrew S. Kaplan, and it's time to shatter the mold.